I have a feeling that this is. Let me start over. You ever get the feeling that you really want to nail something? Like you're working on a project and you're just like, I want to nail this because either it's something you're passionate about or is there is some other reason that you have to nail it. You have to nail it. Yeah. That is the way I feel with this video. Because this is Final Fantasy VI. This is the big one. And if I'm going to be addressing myself as Blue Wolf Alex of the Lore Walkers, this is the one I have to nail. I made a big impassioned speech on the stream about what Lore's the whole spiel about why I don't want Lore deleting his old videos, even though he thinks they're terrible and awful and should be scrubbed from the face of the earth. I know that every creator says that, but the thing is that, and the funny thing is only 90% of actual creators actually, know really should delete their old stuff. Because that last 10% either shows growth, that you're just scrubbing from history, or they were of quality. Yeah, the newer ones may be better, but are they really, right? Because a creator can also have a lapse in quality. I've noticed that in several creators, most of which whom I've just gotten interrupted by a phone call. God damn it. Now I gotta repeat half of what I just said. Fuck. You know what I said about feeling like I needed to nail it? Well, thank you, Matt, for fucking that up. Get my piss off now. Okay, so quick explanation there, so that way everybody doesn't go, "What the fuck?" All that over a phone call. Phone call ended, which when I was like, when I reached down, I was like, "Oh, okay, here I'm gonna hit pause on the recording," and then I resumed. But what I didn't do was unmute. So I lost about 10 minutes into this. My apologies. So, where was I? Where was I before the phone call hit? Right. Okay. So, as I was saying, 90% of creators, don't actually, do actually have reason to be like, my old stuff is crap. But the problem is that even if the old stuff is not great, sometimes in the 10% of cases, the growth can be shown, and it makes things work out more so in the person's favor. That's all I really wanted to say about that. FF10 had a FF10. Wow. Ugh. FF6, excuse me. Fuck, now I'm just fucking up all over the place. Ugh. FF6 has sat in a weird place for me because I didn't grow up with FF6. But when I was starting to really watch YouTube stuff, FF6 was always the one that everybody. FF6 was always one of the two big ones, right? Which was better, FF6 or FF7? The point is that that is such a stupid ass fucking argument, in my opinion, right? Uh, And I say it very distinctly. I think it's a good thing I had to scrap 10 minutes worth of stuff because now I can redo it and do it better. But the biggest thing for me, the biggest thing was for me is who the fuck cares what the best FF is? Save that for fluff articles and rancor and stupid shit like that. It should be personal which one is the best Final Fantasy. Just like it should be it should be up to the individual for what they feel is the best Mario game or the best Zelda game, right? Zelda's another one that guy gets this discourse way too fucking often, right? The Ocarina of Time versus LTTP debates, which is just oh, if I had Adventure One on my desk, that would actually be perfect, but I don't. Right? The problem with a lot of internet discourse is that this exact thing. I mean, too much argument, not enough discussion. And the whole point I was making about being a lore walker was that I made in that scrap 10 minutes, and it was how do I put this? The whole point of it was that I feel like my opinion's not just going to be like there's not going to be a shrieking chorus descending upon me on me to make me feel like an invalid. You know, I feel like there's enough people that would actually really come to that would come to me and discuss it because that's what I want. It's what I've always wanted. An actual discussion instead of a fucking dick measuring contest. What was the thing I talked about back in Cold Steel 1? About why I hate political discourse because 9 times out of 10 it's literally so fucking embarrassing that political debates literally would be less embarrassing in my opinion if the candidates literally dropped trow and physically grabbed an actual physical ruler to measure their penises with. Literally measure their penises. Like it would be literally less embarrassing. Embarrassing, right? And that's what I feel. Why I feel like there's just so much bullcrap. That's why I made this a distinction during that scrap 10 minutes about the whole claiming I am a fan of something, but not being he's being a fan of blah, but not being a blah fan. And the example I gave was Star Wars, because of course it was. But, this could apply to almost anything. Naruto, Bleach, Inuyasha, One Piece. At least I know those are all animes. He's, maybe, hell, there could even be somebody out there who is a fan of Neon Genesis Evangelion, who literally looks at that and goes, "Oh, dude, yeah, no, I get you because I don't like trying to discuss Neon Genesis Evangelion because then it just turns into a pissing match of people who don't like Evangelion are scum, and I don't think that way, right?" I'm sure you could name something that you are a fan of that you just look at the fan base and go, I don't want to fucking associate myself with them, dude, because that's just toxicity and stupidity. Actually, I think the two poster children that I used for that was actually Rooster Teeth's Ruby and Sonic, right? I mean, granted, hinted that's also because I the only reason I don't use something like My Little Pony is I haven't engaged with the My Little Pony fan base enough to really make a decision on that. I mean, yeah, there's bronies, but at the same time, that is like an extreme of an extreme, you know. The problem with internet discourse Or is that, again, like I said, it's more about tearing somebody down for liking something rather than just discussing and enthusing. And that's why I like being part of the lore walkers, because that's what the being a lore walker is. You engage, you enthuse. Who's that? It is the whole what it means to me anyway. What being a lore walker is all about. It's about analysis. It's, it's about the old catchphrase that attracted me to lore's ruminations in the first place. Games are awesome. Let's discuss. And for the record, what's funny is I am the walking definition of of uh, of the fallacy that is the you only like something because of nostalgia argument. At least when it comes to FF6, because you know. Now, there is nothing wrong with liking something because of nostalgia if you acknowledge it, right? There are several things that are probably not very good that I enjoyed back in the day, and thus, you know, I remember liking it because of nostalgia, right? There's actually a Super Nintendo game called Realm, actually, that I used to play back in the day that I actually enjoyed, right? Hmm. I may or may not try to hunt down a copy of that. We'll see. But I do not think I'll be very successful at finding that. Is right because and I'm sure there's plenty of things that you have that fall under that same category. You know. You enjoyed it back in the day, but if you were to play it now, you probably would sit there and go, "Ugh," you'd be looking at that going, I mean, why did I like that again? You know, yeah, out of stock. That's what I thought. Anyways, sorry, just checking something. Now, now, what's funny is the enjoyment of a game does boil down to a difference of opinion, and that's my whole point. But again, let's not argue about it. Let's actually sit down and discuss, right? I don't think Kefka is the greatest villain ever. I don't. I find him to be overblown. I find people claiming that he has so much depth to be laughable. But he is still a good villain. It's one of the many benefits of actually doing this, of actually being a copycat lore runner, because I can discover things about not only the games I enjoy, but about myself at the same time. But now that I've gotten all that ridiculous preamble out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about FF6 proper now. So, first thing we got to talk about is we're talking about the Pixel Remaster, so we got to talk about the Pixel Remaster's soundtrack. I enjoy the Pixel Remaster soundtrack. Heck, one thing I will say that I don't much care for is the music player not giving you the vocal versions of the opera, which is just what? Because that's actually what made the opera work, in my opinion, was that the singers they hired on were really, really good, in my opinion. And it was actually beautifully sung by those singers, you know. The rest of the soundtrack was mostly hit or miss. Yes, some of the tracks I would rather hear in the original, Omen, coming to mind immediately, but several of them were just whoa. The three that come to mind immediately are Terra's theme, uh, the opera songs, obviously, and Searching for Friends. Now, anyone who was around for when Lore Runner did his OST comparison, you would already know this. But the thing is that they hit differently within the context of the game. And that's the interesting thing. Because those were also just the songs in a vacuum. Which is funny when you think about it. One other thing, the opening credits, or to be more accurate, the lack of opening credits within the opening scene, when the Magitech armors are walking through the snow, there's supposed to be credits on screen, popping up on screen, because it's the opening credits, right? That's the whole reason why they bother to do that, to do that whole part of the Omen track that is effectively Terra's theme as they're marching through the snow on their way towards Narsh, because that is effectively your opening credits. Credits, right? There is no opening credits for this one, in this one. And yes, I gave a negative for that because I was like, that is disrespectful. To the people who originally made the game. Incredibly disrespectful. So let's get the Pixel Remaster. But now that I've dogged that, let's get some Pixel Remaster stuff out of the way. The dungeon map and the world map are good, as ever. The Pixel Remasters have been nailing those. The tutorials being optional, always a good thing. Edgar is awesome. And Edgar's Tools is an awesome thing. I gave pluses for different awesome ones. The auto battle remains good. Good. The blitz moves are displayed on the HUD now. So now you pick your blitz move from the menu, and then it'll show you how to do the input. I like that. Oh, and it also seems to be very forgiving with the inputs, by the way, which is a nice touch. Because before you had to basically memorize them and then do the one you wanted, which is just... I prefer Blitz as having a HUD display. Although Blitz in general is still just awesome, so there you go. I like Celis's runic ability. That's always a good thing. Still don't care for Cyan's Bushido. Way too situational to be used. Way too situational and just meh. Suplexing the train. Everybody's got to suplex the train. And fighting Kefka at Narsh, which is where the Kefka race usually ends, which is cool. And which is good. The helpful NPCs. These is always a good thing. Yeah, let's talk about boss design. Fine. So, bosses in this game are actually pretty well designed. With the sole exception, in my opinion anyway, of 2 bosses in the whole game, every boss in the game is actually well done. Actually, let me double check for that, because I know it wasn't any of those ones. Oh, excuse me. It's actually with the exception of 4 bosses in the game. Because I forgot about Ultros. Eh. Oh, and Magic Master. 4 bosses in the entire game are the exception to good boss design. The 4 in question are, of course, Ultros, those stupid engine room tentacles in the World of Ruin. We'll talk about that. I'll talk about that in a bit. Magic Master. I really shouldn't have to defend myself on Magic Master, but and of course, what was her name? Goddess. That was it. So Ultros, Magic Master, Goddess, and those stupid engine room tentacles. Those are the 4. So what makes each of these bosses not very good? Well, Ultros is here. I'm going to deal way too much damage to the entire party randomly. Sometimes twice in a row because fuck you. Goddess is just here. Let's hit you with a death attack. Heck, that can ignore every protection in the book. Because why not have a boss that fucking cheats? And so that's why Goddess sucks. Magic Master is because the freaking tower only lets you use magic, and he spams magic like there's no goddamn tomorrow. Oh, and he casts Ultima upon death. And then there's of course the engine room tentacles. Now I'm gonna try and not spoil this too much. So wish me luck. The engine room tentacles are basically the first boss you encounter in the World of Ruin. And so basically in the final third of the game, because the World of Ruin is not actually all that long compared to the World of Balance. That's in my opinion. Actually, ow, shifted my toe the wrong way. Ow, that actually hurt. Ugh. Anyways, I can actually look that up. So while that's loading, and while my hard drive loads, Odes will keep talking. So it's the first boss you encounter in the World of Ruin. You don't even have the Falcon yet. Okay, you don't even have your second airship yet. And the oh wow, only 8 sessions. So yeah, I want to say it was like in this. I guess you could say it was in the second half. Anyways, so yeah, okay, it's like right at the beginning of the World of Ruin. Okay, hey, the most you have done has been has either seen the scene with Celis, the one, on. All you've done is seen the scene with Celis, met back up with Haben, and are basically in the process of meeting back up with Edgar. But before Edgar can rejoin the party, you have to deal with some tentacles that have invaded his castle's engine room. I'll explain that. I'll explain that more in the story section. But you have to deal with some tentacles that have invaded the engine room of his castle. And these tentacles are awful to fight. So not only are you stuck with Celes, Haben, and Edgar as your party, period. So that's it. That's your party. Hope you've been training those 3 characters. Otherwise, screw you. Edgar, Haben, and Celes have to deal with these tentacles. So not only do they take a page from the Fort Crystal fight back in FF5, but with the increasing amount of health for each one and absorb one element each, but they also have a chance of grabbing one of your party members. Each one has a chance to grab your party members. There are 4 of them and 3 of you. Do the math. So they'll grab one of your party members, and you would think, oh, and then they will drain them. Now you're probably thinking, oh, so in other words, every so often, I'll be drained of like 70 HP or whatever. No, every second or so. I think it's like every second or every like half second or something really stupid. 30 HP is drained out of your character, which the tentacle then heals for however much they suck. It is literally rapid fire like that, which means there is nothing you can do. Oh, and until either your party member dies or the tentacle finally decides to release your party member, they get to just sit there and be stuck. Oh, did I mention that these things have like, I think it's something. What is it, like something stupid like 4, 5, 6, and 7,000 HP? Respectfully. It's doable because the bosses are well designed in this game, but you want to talk unfair bullshit? Look no fucking further. At least with goddess, you can actually circumvent that because there's literally stuff in the game that lets you circumvent that. But those fucking tentacles can go to hell. I don't even remember if you're supposed to have the thing that could let you bypass that. I know you don't have the spell that lets you bypass that, because that you get in the World of Ruin. In the final dungeon, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, no. With those 4 exceptions, the bosses are all really well designed. I gave several of them positives, in fact. Ultima Weapon being a great example of that. Oh, I guess I should also talk about one other thing, because you head to the Magitech research facility, right? There's an escape sequence that looks awful in every version except for the Pixel remaster. See, the problem with it in every other version is that they really were trying to hammer in Mode 7 back in the day. Well, the problem is that it tries to simulate desperate escape, right? So they zoom fast, but the problem is that it just looks like a scramble of pixels bombarding your eyes for like 30 seconds is in between different fights that you have to do. This has caused issues for a lot of people. So how does the Pixel Remaster do this? Make it look like an actual tunnel and slow the speed down. It is a little too slow, if I'm honest, in the Pixel Remaster. But then again, it's better. It goes on for, I think it is literally as long as in the other versions. So think of it as less eye strain. Your eyes being strained less is for the same amount of time, right? Right, which is nice, and definitely helps. Helps kind of get rid of that issue that was a big issue in the previous versions. I already talked about why Ultros is crap. Yep. I guess I should talk about some of the interface changes and the changes to saving. See, because they had to implement the autosave system, it's become kind of irritating because the way it would work before is you would keep your stat increases, but your progress would be reset to kind of mitigate some of the issues, right? The problem is that now it's an autosave system, which makes the engine room tentacles even worse because now you spawn right in the same room as them instead of going back to your previous save point to retry with stronger characters. It's kind of it kind of prevents you from being able to cheese grind, and I kind of liked being able to cheese grind the older versions of FF6. You know, just my opinion. And also, some of the interface changes, like I said, are just kind of. Ugh. Then there's other smaller annoyances, like, for example, healing spells targeting enemies if you previously were using heal spells earlier with that character. If you have it on memory, it's like, what? Why? You know? It just gets irritating to have to deal with that. And I have attacked allies and I have healed enemies because of that garbage. Not a fan. I also don't like the underwater trip. Uh, after Cyan and Sabin meet up with Gao on the Veldt. Veldt. Too slow and too boring, in my opinion. Uh, Cursor memory is cool. Well, despite that, excuse me. Eleanor hitching for menu navigation is cool. Triggers for the multi and single target is actually kind of cool. These menus, item info, all of that built up to a plus. So that's cool. The auction house in Jadur was cool. Upgrading chests is, though a bit walkthrough is actually pretty cool. The spell effects were really cool, especially in the Pixel remaster. The bonus stats that you get from Magicite and some good leveling spots. I'm just kind of rapid firing a bunch of different things. But let's go ahead and talk about a few negatives before we gush some more about positives. Um, so the Esper tutorial doesn't pop apparently. The reason being is that you actually have to talk to a ghost to get the Esper tutorial in Zozo. Someone want to explain that to me? Because I actually proved that it was bypassable, that it was skippable, which actually could actually be a aggregate in and of itself. There's a floating continent fake out where you think it's going to take you immediately to the floating continent, but then it's like, and here, have control. Well, and you can just go fly around the world for a while and then when you're ready, just select go to the floating continent when you're ready to go. Kind of annoying. I'm sorry to anybody who likes Amano's art, but I do not like the menu portraits in this game because they are Amano's art, and I think they look kind of crap. I've never liked Amano's art. I've always thought it looked off. I've always preferred it in pixel form to his drawn form. It always looked off to me. I don't know. Hmm. Uh, and don't like some of the boss placement. This only really this was really annoying in the World of Ruin, specifically in Kefka's Tower. Also, healing items don't heal enough in this game. High potions heal you for 250. That's not bringing the numbers down, that's kneecapping them. There's a difference between nerfing and kneecapping. In my opinion, that's kneecapping. You want to make a high potion that be less useful than it usually is, you put it down to 400, not 250. 250 is just fucking overkill. Same with the potions only healing 50. 50 HP. That's just ugh. Uh what other small things? There's some targeting issues that I've already mentioned. Um the lack of unique party dialogue for certain scenes is just kind of what the hell? Hell, because after a point, because characters are never required, there's no uniqueness to the dialogue. Everybody says the same damn thing every time, which is just a little on the irritating side. And also, some characters who should have unique dialogue in certain situations, cough, cough, Celestine, lock again, cough, cough, is just ignored, regardless of prior importance placed on it. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Let's talk about some more niceties. There's good info in this game. I'm not gonna lie. Uh, there's also the multipliers for AP, because most spells require about 100 AP, but some espers will actually increase the amount of AP you gain per per go. You know, some spells will have a plus times 5 multiplier, some will have a plus 10, some will have a plus 8 times 8, and so on and so forth. It's actually really nice because then the more powerful spells will take longer. And unlike in FF5, that you actually gain multiple AP per encounter, which is also a very nice touch. You would think that would just be a tiny thing, but no, it's actually really good. The branching, the narrative branching off, and then you can just choose to play the scenarios in any order is kind of cool. And party feasibility is also a good thing in this game. There's good loot, the HUD is good, the core combat is awesome in this game, as this is definitely one of, in my opinion, the 4 times the core ATB system has been at its absolute best. The others, if you're wondering, would be 4, 7, and 9, in my opinion. I know some people don't like how slow 9 is, and I think those people are out of their goddamn minds, because as I think it's smooth. Slow, yes, but smooth. Unlike in 10 where it's janky. But then again, 10 is still smoother than 13, and I can say that definitively because 13 has been nothing but jerky and terrible most of the time. But I digress. I guess I haven't really talked about Magicite yet. Well, you know what? Considering that my next point is basically the power progression, difficulty curve, and Xeno leveling, let's talk about Magicite. So, the Magicite is very interesting. Interesting in that, again, it's how each of your characters learn spells. But what's funny is you can actually craft your characters based on which Magicite you use, because some Magicite will give you bonuses upon level up. So, for example, a boost to your HP, a boost to your MP, a boost to Strength, a boost to Stamina, a boost to Magic, a boost to Speed. There's a whole bunch of different varieties. And it's actually really cool and adds a bit of a strategic layer. Okay. Because a lot of times I was equipping a Magicite onto a character not because I wanted the summon on that character, but because I wanted the stat boost that that character was going to receive upon leveling up. And that honestly really is kind of cool. And it makes it feasible for either low level or high level runs of the game. The game is beatable at about level 20. 20 at the absolute lowest end of comfortability if you know what you're doing. But the thing is that if you don't know what you're doing, then yeah, it can get a little grindy. That's actually why I ran into a couple of grind walls, because I don't know FF6 very well. This might as well have been my first time ever playing the game, because this is the first time I've ever beaten the game. Not the first time I got to the World of Ruin, mind you, but the first time I've ever actually beaten the game. It's actually kind of funny in that regard. We'll talk about my biggest what the fuck complaint about this game in a bit, but I want to stick with the positivity for a minute. Let's talk about. Actually, no. Let's talk about the one thing too, because yes, this game can get a little grindy, but there's also an issue with the anti-grind item, the Moogle charm. This is the first game really to have an ink nun. I'm hoping so because I'm gonna feel like an idiot if it was actually like one of the other ones. But I'm pretty sure FF6 was the first game to have an ink nun. It was known as the Moogle's Charm. I gave Moogle's Charm a negative. Now you're probably thinking, what? Why, Blue Wolf? Because it's exclusive to MOG. That is dumb. Now you're probably thinking, well, wait, Blue Wolf, isn't the Ink Nun exclusive to Diablos over in FF8? Yes, it is. But here's the thing Diablos can be equipped onto any party member, any of the 6 party members in FF8. So, if say you want, let's say Squall is with Renoa and Zell on one party, and then the other party's got and it has got Quistis, is Irvine, and Selfie. All you have to do is just go into the party menu, hit switch, and then shift Diablos over to Quistis' party, to any one of the 3 on Quistis' party, and bam, now that party has Ink Nun. It is that simple. It's a simple menu option, right? Now you're switching everything with that menu option, but there's nothing stopping you from just manually putting Diablos off of whoever in Squall's party he's on, and then just go put it onto one of Quistis's party. It's a few more. It's more clicks if you do it that way, but there's nothing stopping you. Now imagine if Diablos was exclusive to Squall, for example. And that's the problem with the Moogle charm. Because I shouldn't have to be forced to bring a character just because I want no encounters. That's stupid. Stupid. Period. Negative to gameplay. But what wasn't a negative to gameplay is the Magicite. Because again, like I said, with the stat bonuses and stuff, you can basically strategically plan out your grinding. And in my opinion, with the good leveling spots, this game is a joy to level in. I call it the Zen of grind, and I'm pretty sure I mentioned this in FF5 as well. This is another game with the Zen of grind, of leveling, excuse me, the Zen of leveling. Because it feels good to get stronger because I feel there's enjoyment for me in leveling my characters. I know some people see grind as a bad thing, but at the same time, if I enjoy leveling, then it's not really grind, is it? It's leveling. Hence the lore runner's distinction between the two. If I enjoy it, it's leveling. If it's a tedious slog, it's grinding. FF13 has tedious grind. FF6 has the Zen of leveling. See the difference? And this is also balanced out by the smooth difficulty curve, because like I said, I've seen people beat the game at like levels. Actually, I think it's like something stupid like under level 15 to beat the game. That's insane. I mean, that is insane. But what's funny is if you know the game well enough, you can do it. It actually is doable at that low of a level. It's going to be a pain in the ass, but it's doable. And sometimes the zen of leveling can go hand in hand with a smooth difficulty curve and a smooth power progression curve because I never felt like I was behind the curve. Not really. Even with the engine room tentacles, that was more about that boss being badly designed garbage rather than me falling behind the curve, you know? Even Goddess, quite frankly, was very similar to that. The music's cool. Well, the Colosseum is not even worth mentioning. I've already talked about the Moogle charm. A couple of sons got a thing. Viscerality. Yes, I definitely feel powerful in this game. Absolutely. Let's talk a bit about the final battle, shall we? I know it sounds weird to talk about the final battle in the non-spoiler section, but yeah. I like the final battle. The music is great, and I never felt like the final battle was being cheap on me. Even though, funny enough, I actually did have a couple of cheap shots that's hit on me, but that was more, they were only really cheap shots because of their timing, not because they were actually cheap bullshit. Which is good. Good. Also, this game doesn't have a status effect fetish, which actually increased the enjoyment of this game. Which is kind of funny in regards. Even the final boss didn't really have a status effect fetish, which is good. The 4 phases of that final fight are amazing, though. Oh, the music, the symbolism, the epicness. Even if you can cheese the shit out of that fight, and trust me, you can cheese the shit out of the final fight of FF6, it's actually pretty cool. And honestly, I kind of felt like he was still properly challenging fighting him normally than using one of the cheese strats. Because let's face it, which is funny because he defeated. I actually did try to cheese him, and he defeated my cheese strat. No, seriously, he defeated my cheese strat. Now, granted, my cheese strat was basic AF. Ultima. I'm not apologizing. When I defeated Goddess and got back to the party that could spam Ultima, I was like, oh, fucking thank God. Because that was my main party, obviously. So we got back to my main party, they got up to the boss they had to fight, and I was just like, yeah, I've got nothing to worry about with this fight, so I'm just going to spam Ultima. I didn't defeat every boss in the game, but I did defeat most of them. Death Gaze was actually kind of fun. And, for the record, Death Gaze, which is funny because Death Gaze is an enemy in the world, or boss in the world of ruin. You have to chase him around. FF7 fans probably have, or this probably sounded familiar to FF7 fans. So what it is bleh. What it is you go in the second airship, the Falcon, and you're flying around the world. Now, as you're flying around the world, Death Gaze has a chance of be sitting on one in specific tile on the world map. So when you run into him, the encounter goes off. He casts level 5 death immediately. Then his next move either has a chance of being I think it's either death spell or some other attack, and then and then he has like a 2/3 of a chance to run away. But here's the thing: any damage you will manage to inflict upon him stays, and he has, I believe, 55,000. Shit, I don't actually remember. Give me a moment to look this up. But yeah, whatever damage you leave on him when he leaves the battle it stays on there. Oh, 55,555. That is his max HP. So whatever damage you do to him in each round that you have with him stays on him. So let's say you deal about 10,000, right? Well, for the sake of argument, let's say you deal exactly 10,000 to him. Well, now his HP when you meet him again will be at 45,555. And so on and so forth until he's finally defeated. This then gives you the Bahamut Magicite, which then gives you access to Meteor. And it's actually a well-designed fight. Even he's a well-designed boss, right? Well, aside from the level 5 Doomgaze, but at the same time, that's not so much of an issue, especially in the Pixel Remaster. So, there you go. I still say Magic Master is badly designed. He cost me an hour and a half of time, and yada yada yada. Is there anything else I want to talk about gameplay wise? Quetzalcoatl was a Magicite that was just fun as hell to use. I guess I haven't talked about the elemental dragons yet. So there's 8 elemental dragons that are all over the world, and when you defeat all 8, you get a Magicite. Those are actually fun fights, with the exception of the Ice Dragon. Again, the Ice Dragon was kind of cheap ass, and that was mostly just because I wasn't really ready for him. And yeah, he's also blocking the way to get at Firaga, so that's the other problem there, you know? But Quetzalcoatl was cool, turning everybody into Dragoons, which was awesome. Zetzer's slots was fine. I mean, I don't care for Gao's Rages. So Gao's Rages is just change his AI script. In other words, basically make it so that he acts like a specific enemy, which is just... Yeah, Gao was not very strong. I ended up having to bench him. Umaro actually had to end up replacing him, sadly enough. And then... Strago's your blue mage. If you know what you're doing, it's great. If you don't, he's just kind of there. Yeah, I think that's it. Alright. You know what time it is, guys. Time for the spoilers. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Alright, so from here on out, spoilers ahoy. Let's start off with the fact that let's start with the thing everybody knows. Let's start with Kefka. The thing about Kefka is that there are people who claim that he is the main character. God damn it, my nose. One sec. Sorry about that. There are people who call Kefka the main character of FF7. I gotta be honest with you, I don't agree. I agree he is one of the driving forces, but he is not the driving force of the game, in my opinion. He puts a lot of things in motion, but a lot of things that were put in motion. But I don't feel like this is Kefka's story, if that makes any sense. This is the story of the world that fell to ruin. And that's honestly what I feel like this is. And Kefka is not exactly, in my opinion, the star of the show. Because it's the people of the world that are the star of the show. To give Kefka sole main character credit, in my opinion, is doing a disservice to the writing of this game, to how brilliantly written this game actually is for a SNES RPG. Right? Now you might be like, well, who do you think the main character is, Blue Wolf? There is no main character. That's my hot take, guys. There is no main character of FF6. There is no Cecil. There is no Golbez. There is no Exdeath. I ran out of stuff. There is no Cloud. There is no Sephiroth. There is no Squall. There's no Ultimecia. There's no Zidane and Kuja. Because, in my opinion, there is no one central hero, and there is no one central villain. Yes, Kefka is arguably the representation of it all, but Kefka, in my opinion, is not really a character in and of himself. I mean, he is, but he also isn't at the exact same time. Because Kefka is a symbol. And now you see how this all ties together, don't you? With my whole point that I made at the beginning of F6 stream about Lord's old videos being a symbol, about them being the goddamn Batman. Because FF6 is about more than just a clown, a villain in clown makeup who everybody claims is just a Joker ripoff when he's not. It's about more than just Kefka trying to blow up the world for funsies. It's about despair and giving in to despair. If we give in to despair, then that is the end. That's why everybody literally comes to him and says all of their reasons for why they are opposing him. And why Kefka is just like, then I'll stamp them out. Because destruction is his reasoning. Right? It's the whole. Kefka is the mindset of, well, the world's fucked, so who the fuck cares? And the party's reaction to that is the antithesis of that. That's what FF6 means. That's what FF6 is about. It's not about Kefka blowing up the world. That's just something that happens in this game. No. What FF6 is truly about is Kefka representing despair and hopelessness. And the party, the player characters, representing a rejection. To sum up, Kefka wants to do that to the universe. And the universe steps up and says, "Fuck you, Kefka. You don't get to do it." That is FF6. It's freaking Avengers Endgame. Like, what was it? Like fucking over 20 years before Endgame became a thing. Hell, over a decade before the MCU even became a thing. Never mind. Jesus. That is why I reject Kefka being the main character. Because to claim that Kefka is the main character is to claim that he wins in the end. And call it a quirk, but yeah, I don't subscribe to the idea that hopelessness won in the FF6 world. I subscribe to the theory that the FF6 world recovered. That the world that fell to ruin rose back up to balance. Rose back up to become the world of balance once again. Sorry for slamming you with the thesis statement right at the beginning, but now that I've slammed you with my big thesis statement, let's go through the characters and analyze why I feel that way. Start with Gao. I'll go in the order of how much I have to say and how much they tie into each of the characters. Because the lore runner has said that this story is about the main theme of FF6 is the connections between people. Now that I can get behind 100% because it is. That is the theme of FF6. Because it is the bonds and the connections that reject Kefka's worldview. The party stood together and defeated Kefka. Kefka stood alone and lost. Very simple. Gao, effectively was just on his own. Then he met the party. And he found a reason to live. Through being the adopted son of Cyan. Who we'll get to later because, like I said, we're going in order of how well they tie in to the overall theme. Gao, his connections with people is what keeps him going. You know? Umaro, Gogo, and Bog don't really fit all that well, I will admit. Gogo, I guess, connects through his mimicry. Umaro through his connections with Mog. And Mog, of course, has the other Moogles and the fact that, kind of doesn't want to lose his home. Or their home. I don't know Mog's gender. But anyways. So, that's all well and good. Shadows is interesting because if you actually go digging, you find out that that realm is his daughter, and so that connects him to not only realm but Strago as well because grandpa and all that. Strago is of course the people of Thamasa and all that. At the Magi. I, uh, I, then, then there are the ones where with connections that have to be, well, effectively with connections that are changed. Because we have Cyan, Celeste, and Locke. Cyan's is pretty obvious and blatant. His wife and son, which is hilarious. Which is hilarious if you've played Fire Emblem Awakening, because Cyan's son is named Owain. Fire Emblem Awakening, yeah. But anyways, but Cyan loses his family and effectively gains a surrogate son in Gao, which is kind of interesting. He has to basically learn to open his heart back up again, to, well, reconnect with people after what Kefka did. Celeste, of course, has to throw away all of her connections to the Gestalian Empire because she couldn't tolerate what the Gestalian Empire was doing. And yeah, Locke had to effectively sever his ties with Rachel by getting the Phoenix Magicite in order to bid her farewell, which is actually kind of nice. Letting go of one connection, Locke and Celeste had to let go of one connection so that they could connect with each other. Zetzer's connection is, of course, to his old partner and to effectively keep a promise. Take care of the Falcon. And of course, because he grows to care about the party, to basically be a chip in their pile. Annie up. Then there's two of my then there's my three favorite characters, which I have saved for last on purpose. Let's start with Edgar and Sabin. Edgar and Sabin are very interesting in that their connections are, of course, to each other as brothers and to their kingdom. And what I love about this is their connection as brothers is the strongest connection they have, and it's also the most consistent one in the entire game. Because Edgar gave his brother gave Sabin his freedom with a coin toss. A double-headed coin. Because, well, take the burden of leadership on yourself and let your brother go free. That was his mind. That was what he wanted to do, because he felt like Sabin would be happier being free. Funny thing is that Sabin also cares about Figaro. No matter where it goes, because it can travel through sand. Don't you know? The funny thing, the funny thing about Sabin and Edgar, though, is Sabin and Edgar really care about each other to the point, right, of where they would do anything for each other, right? And the best part is is that Edgar, well, he is a bit of a flirt and a ladies' man. He's not a Sylvain. What I mean by that, of course, is the flirting is not the point. You know, any floozy is not going to become the Queen of Figaro. Not to to stretch this this analogy, right? Just some random woman? No. Now, granted, he is of course out there to try and woo, but at the same time, if he found the one, well, he's not going to let something stupid like he flirts with all women or or you know their motive come into question unless it becomes blatant and obvious. And I would actually argue a lot of the time Sylvain was probably wrong if he gave them a chance and didn't squander it every goddamn time. But Edgar isn't like that. Because Edgar, well, he will be flirtatious. He genuinely cares. It's actually one of the reasons why he secretly opposes the Empire. Because he knows what the Empire is doing, and he cares enough to try and put a stop to it. He's connected to his people. Which leads us to Terra. The girl whose amnesia severs all of her previous connections so that she can forge new ones. In the world of balance, she is trying to constantly find herself, and then feels like she's given up when it comes to the world of ruin. But she realizes that she can still fight, that she can still make a difference, because she can use her power to protect those that she cares about. She does care. Because she had people around her that allowed her to come to the exact opposite conclusion that Kefka did. Which is also very very fitting if you drag Dissidia into this. Because remember, in Dissidia 1, who were the two FF6 representatives? Terra and Kefka. They were polar opposites. Because Kefka just was sitting there being like, where do dreams come from? Where do they go? It's all fucking pointless. And Terra says, there is a point. Caring about people is the point. But because nobody gave a shit about you, Kefka, you didn't have a chance. Your mind was warped, twisted, because Gestalt is an evil fuckwad who is also a negative story because he's so goddamn one note, he's not even worth talking about. That you honestly are one of the most pitiable villains in the whole franchise. In fact, the only one I would argue that is more pitiable than you, and when I say pitiable, I mean, has the capacity to be pitied. The only one who can be pitied more is Kuja. And that's just because Kefka had a chance and chose death and destruction. Kuja never had a chance. Because any opportunity that was given to him was yanked away by Garland. No, not that one. That FF9 one. And that's the best part about this. And why I love why I love characters like like Edgar and Tara so goddamn much. Those are my two favorite characters, by the way, because Tara's journey is so amazingly complex that it's actually great. Now, what's funny is it's left mostly ambiguous about whether or not she ever really fully regains her memories. I would argue it doesn't matter. Because the Meduan flashback, the funny thing is the Meduan flashback does not need to be an indicator of her getting her memories back, if you think about it. Because why the hell would she know that? And it's also arguable that she didn't have a childhood. Because remember, Gestalt found her as a baby. Yeah. That's the thing. That's the thing about FF6. Is you gotta forge those connections. Because otherwise you break. Just like Kefka did. Kefka's worldview needs to be rejected, not just because it's going to finish destroying the world, and we'd like to keep breathing, but also because his worldview needs to be rejected. We can't give up on people because people are worth helping. Life is worth living because of the connections we make with each other. You know? Not to quote my own writings again, but if a man stands alone, he stands as a corpse. We need other people. Because we need other human interaction, no matter how small. It's one of the reasons why I'm actually grateful for the one consistent viewer I have. Because then I don't have to be alone during the streams. Which is funny because that's actually what the opera scene is all about, isn't it? It continues that theme. I admit I'm also one of those people who didn't care for the opera scene, mostly because Ultros is the boss of it. But the opera scene actually is something that I do admit is one of the most beautiful scenes in gaming. It is. It is a very nice scene, and it also ties into the theme very nicely. Because again, in the opera continues that theme of the connections between people. It's actually one of the things that draws Celeste and Locke closer together, too. In a weird, roundabout way. Still weird that Celeste is, for all of 3 seconds, is like, I'm not some opera floozy. Now I'm gonna go into this door and start practicing my singing. What? Like, uh, but the funny thing is Kefka's worldview the one that we have to reject was made by the Gestalian Empire, wasn't it? Because, greed for its own sake Led to Kafka just wanting to destroy. It led to Kafka's mindset of destruction for its own sake, didn't it? If you'll forgive the quote, some men cannot be bought, bullied, or negotiated with. They cannot be bargained or reasoned with. Some men just want to watch the world burn. And that's Kafka. He just wants to burn the entire world to the ground because it's all so goddamn boring. And all so fucking pointless. That's why he wants to amuse himself with the deaths of so many people. Like when he poisons Oma, or when he misaligns the Warring Triad in order to destroy the world. It's all because Kafka looks at the world and says, well, this is a bunch of bullshit. The world isn't worth saving because the world is just a pathetic pile of nothing. And that's what the party has to deny him. The universe the world needs to step up and deny Kafka's claims that life is worth living. And that's why, in my opinion, the Lore Runner's old videos should not be deleted. Because they are a symbol of that struggle to combat that mindset. People like Green Scorpion got into this because of that mindset. That our old favorites like FF6 are still worth revisiting, are still worth celebrating, are still good. Because gaming is still good. Regardless of whether or not everything that comes out now is crap. Because we still have those older games. We still have those memories. We still have those connections. And that is the message of FF6. That life is worth living for the people we care about. And that is why I am proud to address myself as Blue Wolf Alex of the Lore Walkers. Because FF6 is a representation of everything that I love about being a lore walker. And that is why I am always proud to say, Blue Wolf Alex of the Lore Walkers, signing out. Have a good one.